Hi all, this is Dave Clark again. I'm going to be showing today a follow-up on the previous video I'd done. This is another way to um, get data into a database. In this case, I'm actually going to use an Excel spreadsheet again. I'm going to use it to show you how you can read from the spreadsheet and also update data that exists in a database. Okay, so here what I have is just a quick sample script to create a table called customer, and we just have a unique identifier column on here, and then a customer name, and a category 1 and category 2. And you see we have a unique constraint of customer name. Now, obviously this may not be the case in the real world. You would have something to identify it as unique. The customer UID would do that, but that's just a surrogate key. A lot of times you have some other key to determine what is actually unique. You may have your own ID from an application or whatnot. So I just chose customer name in this case, so that we would have something to compare upon and say that this makes this row unique. So I'm going to insert some records in there. We're going to insert Acme Supply, ABC Company, and XYZ Inc. And then a category 1, and for some, a category 2. And then I'll just go ahead and display those records. Okay, so now we have data in our customer table. So now if we wanted to, let's update some of this category information. For example, someone in the organization was doing this outside of the database and manually generated a spreadsheet or something like that, or they got a list of all the customers out of the database, but then they changed the categories in the spreadsheet and then gave them back to us and said, okay, now take what I did here, these changes, and just load it into the database. The one way I want to discuss today is using the OpenRowSet function, and we can do that to read data in from an outside source. And one of the things I just wanted to note here was that for the ability to read from spreadsheets and some other sources, the distributed queries option must be enabled. And that's one of the ways to do that is through the SP configure, and it is the ad hoc distributed queries. And actually, if you don't have the show advanced options turned on, you can just run SP configure by itself and see what your options are. With this one here, show advanced options, if that's not on and you want to see what everything is, you can set that to 1. So if we run SP configure ad hoc distributed queries 1 for true, and then run the reconfigure statement, and then if you don't want to leave it in that state, once you're done with your work, you can certainly set that back to 0. Now, I currently, the ad hoc distributed queries, the current configuration run value for me is 1, so I won't need to run that now. But it's basically simply just run that statement, and you notice it'll tell you that you'll need to run reconfigure to make that work if it was previously set to 0. Okay, so now I want to just do a test to see if I can read from my spreadsheet, and I'll just show you what we have in the spreadsheet here. I'm going to open the XLS, the 2003 version. So you see we have customer name, category 1, and category 2. We've got our customers that are in the database and some category data. So now this is what it currently is. So let's change this and say this is going to be, maybe these were mixed up, and this is supposed to be hardware, this is supposed to be retail. They went from great to medium, and then Acme Supply, they're in our awesome category. So I'll go ahead and save that. And now let's see, I just refresh the local cache, so get rid of those IntelliSense errors. So let's just see if we can run our OpenRowSet to read from there. So we have our provider that we're using, our Excel version, and the database is the actual file. So in this case, this is where my file resides, and it's customer category update.xls. And I'm going to do select star from, and then the sheet name with the $sign, and that's an Excel notation. You'll notice my sheet name is called customer. So if somebody gave it to you and they didn't name it, this would most likely be called sheet 1. So but it's helpful if you get that, and it's, the column headings are there, names are there, etc. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and run this. Select, see if we get our results, and we do. So you see we haven't updated anything. We just read the data from the spreadsheet, which is pretty cool. We're in SQL Server, yet we have access to this file on the server. Now, that's one thing to note is this file, I have this to my mapped X drive. Well, this is my local instance of SQL Server, so it knows where the X drive is. If you actually are doing this on your server, you could put the file on your server or some path that it can access. So now all we need to do is basically change this to an update statement. So that was the hard part, just making sure we can get get data from the spreadsheet. So now we can do that same exact command with the OpenRowSet, but notice I'll alias the results from this, which the results are going to look just like this, basically a table. So I'm aliasing that and calling it customer data. And I'm joining on my customer table, customer name equal customer data, customer name. And that goes back to the reason why previously I mentioned that I was making this customer name be a unique constraint, because that way I know that I'd always only ever have one row in there with the name. Okay, so I'll say update customer. I'm going to just set the category. So set category 1 equal to category 1 from the spreadsheet, category 2 equal to category 2 from the spreadsheet, from customer, join those based on the name. So let's go ahead and run that. And actually, before we do, let me run the select over here. We'll see what the data in my database currently is: the retail, hardware, the null, and the great. Go ahead and perform the update. 3 rows affected. Now if we rerun our select statement, notice we have hardware and retail switched. This went from good to medium, and this went from null to awesome. So our data's been updated that easily. There are some caveats with this method. Obviously, the ad hoc distributed queries need to be enabled, and depending on what kind of access and control you have to the server, that may or may not be an option for you. But it's something I just wanted to review with everyone. Another option that may come across is you get different versions of the spreadsheets. Notice down here I have another copy of this, Excel SX, and if I open that, you'll see it's the same, except now this doesn't have the updated data. This is how it originally was. But what we run into is that when we try to read from that in the same manner, we get a message that the jet driver and about a link server that's null. So from what I've read, I didn't get too detailed into this, so I'm not going to try to explain it too much, but from what I've read, the more current the versions of the Microsoft products that you're using, they're not necessarily making everything compatible with these jet drivers. So what they've done instead is they have different drivers that we can use. So I'll go ahead and remove this. And now I'll use the ACE OLED DB12.0. Now you notice the Excel, I didn't change this, and I was trying to look up to see if this needed to be changed based on the Excel version, like your SQL Server 10 is 2008, 9 is 2005, 8 is 2000, etc. I was trying to see if this Excel version had something to do with it, but it'll work fine without modifying that. So now we basically have the same exact thing, except we've changed this provider And now let's see if we can retrieve from that. And you can see that we can read from the file now. And one last note is that if you have a server with kind of like a mixed state of maybe Microsoft SQL Server is installed in 64-bit mode, and then you have some of the Office products like Excel installed in 32-bit mode, you'll have all kinds of problems. Everything I've read on that said you have to uninstall the Office components, reinstall them as 64-bit, and then you can use the appropriate driver. But you know, that's quite a hassle to go through, but that was what was needed if you have the Office products and the SQL Server running in different different installation environments. All right, so that's all I wanted to do today, was just show you quickly how to read from that, and then also update. Obviously, you could insert, you know, if you wanted to create a table, you could do that as well. Just insert into, or you can even do select into, probably just select your columns into table name from this read right here. So hopefully that helps to show you another way to get data into a database from an outside data source, such as an Excel spreadsheet. Thanks, and have a great day.